Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth McCravey, a website designer and business coach for entrepreneurs and your host for the Breakthrough Brand podcast, the show that's all about pulling back the curtain on how to actually build a successful business. I don't skim the surface around here. If you want a deep dive into the nitty-gritty details of what it takes to run a successful business and stand out in a crowd, you're in the right place. After creating a multiple six-figure-a-year website design business in my 20s, I'm ready to share everything I've learned and everything I'm still learning because I believe the keys to building a thriving business should never be a secret. Here you'll find episodes that are actionable, direct, and fun, like friends chatting business over coffee, and a fresh, honest take on the reality of being an entrepreneur. If you're ready to master online marketing, branding, website design, mindset, and business strategy, then this is the podcast for you. It's time to build your breakthrough brand. Let's do this. Hello, friends. I am back with my first podcast interview on the show in way too long. Wow, it has truly been a while. You may not have even noticed because of the power of batching interviews and things like that, but I actually haven't had a podcast interview on the Breakthrough Brand podcast in like a year. Like I haven't recorded one in like a year, which is like so crazy for me to say. It's a little embarrassing, but hey, I've been busy. I've been doing podcast interviews on other people's shows and obviously airing a lot of solo episodes where it's just me. But now I'm excited to be bringing back lots of incredible guests on the show, including today's guest, Alexa Cawley. And she's like the perfect first guest for me to interview after my interview in hiatus because she's a longtime listener of this podcast. And because of that, she knows you guys and she knows what you need to hear. Actually, before we started even recording, we were talking about that of like, yeah, like, do you have any questions? Nope, she's good because like she knows what I'm typically talking about. She knows you guys and she knows what you need to hear. So let me tell you a little bit about Alexa and what we talk about, and then I'm going to play our interview. So Alexa's the owner of Forever Friday Consulting. She's a podcaster and she's the host of the Friday Society podcast. She's a marketing pro for wellness professionals. She's also a member of Breakthrough Brand All Access, and she's a 2-time M-Shop customer as well. And like I said, she also listens to this podcast. So we just have a lot of connections. I've like known her online for years, it feels like. And in today's episode, we're diving into marketing funnels and specifically 5 pieces of a successful marketing funnel in the order in which they come, how to do your own funnel, and so much more. Alexa does a really excellent job in this episode, specifically speaking to new business owners, as well as people who've been doing this a while. And we also talk about funnels both from the perspective of a service business and a product-based business. So whichever one you are, you're going to hear a lot of like the differences in the how-tos for both business models. So other things we're going to discuss that I think you're going to be excited about. So stay tuned for all of this, but I want to go over them real quick. We talk about marketing practices and the stereotype around funnels, what's not working anymore with funnels and with marketing, and what works in today's world of funnel marketing. Really interesting part of our conversation. We also talk about the Soul Cycle and Peloton battle and some great marketing tips we can learn there. If you don't know what I mean by that, like listen to this episode. We talk about it plenty. It's super interesting to me. We also talk about marketing lessons Alexa learned while working with big wellness brands like Lululemon and Soul Cycle, and like specifically some things those companies have like done well that she implements with her clients now. And then we go through all those funnel steps. Like I mentioned, a full guide really to what a funnel is and what should be in yours. So that is it. I'm excited to play this interview. Head to the show notes for more links to all the different things you'll hear Alexa and I mention. And without further ado, here's my guest, Alexa Cawley. Okay. Hello, Breakthrough Brand podcast listeners. I'm chatting with the lovely Alexa, owner of Forever Friday Consulting. She's a fellow podcaster, a marketing pro, a member of Breakthrough Brand All Access, and an M-Shop customer. And you're my first, I already told her this, but she's my first interview in like 14 months. So I feel like I got to get back in the game here, getting used to interviewing again. But anyway, welcome Alexa to the show.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I am a huge fan, which, you know, I've told you this already, but I'm so excited. And yes, my favorite thing in your intro is, you know, when you say like friends chatting business over coffee, and I'm here for it. I have my coffee and we're just going to chat business.
Yes. And it's so fun too, because you are like a listener of the podcast. So it's fun that like we were just chatting beforehand that like Alexa knows what you guys need to hear on this topic because she listens and she's like, sees where the gaps are in what I've been sharing, and knows like where you guys are at in your business. So that's really fun.
I love it.
Yeah. So tell everyone who you are, what you do, and who you help in your business.
I am Alexa. I am the owner and founder of Forever Friday Consulting. I help health and fitness businesses with their marketing. So I graduated college. The day after I graduated school, I started working for Lululemon. And I tell this story a lot, but all my friends had their like big girl jobs. They were all working. I'm from New York. So, everybody moved back to the city. They were living in Manhattan. They had their PR jobs. And I moved home and I was working for Lululemon at the mall in my hometown. And I was like, oh, such a failure. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And fell in love with the company. It was very much like, you're given what you need when you need it sort of thing. And I loved the company. So I worked there for about 5.5 years, worked my way up, started opening stores, started working on the marketing and community team, where we will talk a lot about the learnings there. And then after that, I worked for SoulCycle in the marketing department in headquarters. So sort of just was like, all right, I have got this niche sort of coincidentally down. I understand what it takes to make it in the industry. And I had a very specific day where I was in a meeting at SoulCycle, and I sort of just started to calculate out how much salary was in the room, to make our studios successful. And it was just one of those things where I was like, I love this company, but I also really love small businesses. And I love my local yoga studio. I love, my local juice shop. Like, I want them to thrive, but no one's teaching them the business strategy that they need to know. Or if there was somebody, I didn't know who they were. So I just started it, and I started my company with, doing smaller scale marketing advice for businesses, just around my area. And then it has scaled since to around the world.
That's awesome. And with that, like starting your business, leaving like a corporate job, did you stay in the corporate job at SoulCycle while you started, or like how was that transition?
So this is a fun story. February 21st, 2020, I quit full time, and I was like, okay, I can do this. I have all my clients lined up. And then the fitness industry took an absolute nosedive. Like in New York, for example, gyms weren't open for 1.5 years. I know in other places they opened and then closed again and whatever, but like there was no revenue coming in for 1.5 years. So it's one of those things though, where I'm just like, I have to look at that as a blessing for my business, because I pivoted in a way that allowed me to see, the budgets people were working with and what they were able to implement. And I went from doing like larger scale marketing retainers to smaller, quicker membership model, like coaching model, course model. And I learned a lot, specifically from your podcast too. Like I learned a lot in that short period of time to turn this into a business that was more scalable. And I don't even think I understood that in the beginning, that like I was going to want a scalable model. Like for me, it was just like trade time for money, and that's great. And you'll make a living. And then I sort of learned, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, you're right. Like what a crazy time to like pivot. And in your industry, that's wild. Yeah. Well, I love hearing your story with all that. Okay. Before we get into the funnel stuff, I wanted to ask you, because we're going to talk about funnels today. I already said that in the intro, but thinking about working with big brands or even some of your other clients, like what would you say is one of the biggest marketing lessons you've learned that we could apply to our like small online businesses?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is something that I took from Lululemon that I will always just continue to reiterate. And it's that marketing is relationships. Like good marketing is good hospitality, and making sure that you understand your client, your follower, right? Like we get into this headspace of thinking someone's a follower. They're a human being, right? Like, there's another human on the end of that phone. So do you see them, and are you appreciating them? And are you in relationship with them? Like the biggest thing that I'll stress is just good marketing is having good relationships with people and just understanding that, they just want to be seen and appreciated, and your business will fit in there somehow. But if you start to treat people as like a number, that's where you're going to start to get into trouble.
Yeah, I love that. Good marketing is good hospitality. That's a great takeaway. And I love Lululemon. So it's fun that like used to work there back when I taught yoga, which I think you probably know that, but I taught yoga before I started my business. It was like, as a yoga teacher, I was like, I must have like Lululemon, everything. And the clothes are so high quality. I still gosh, what was it now? That was like 7 or 8 years ago or more than that I taught yoga, and I still wear the same clothes.
Yeah. I bet they still look great.
They work. Yeah.
And if they're not, you can always go back to the store and be like, hey, something happened to these. And that's where the thing is, like, relationships are everything and life is long, right? Like they didn't do anything for a quick buck or a quick sale. That was never the mentality. It was always like, we are in it for the long haul. Like we are in this relationship with Elizabeth for as long as she wants to teach yoga. And if this tank top has a hole in it or something happens, she can come back here. And, that was just sort of the mentality, and it still is. And that really, really fosters brand loyalty.
Yeah.
And, whether or not that was intentional for them, like that is good marketing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's cool too how they do the hemming and all that in store as well and stuff. My husband loves Lululemon pants and always gets his all fixed up in there. Yeah. Love it. Okay. So let's talk about funnels. So I know like for everyone listening, some of you guys might be like, I've heard the word funnel, but I don't know what it is. I'm very new to business. And others of you are like, I am doing this as a concept, but like, I'm always looking for tips to make it better. That's how I feel. I'm like, I have funnels in my business and I'm ready to like learn some tips to make it better. So Alexa has some tips for us, but to start, let's define what a funnel is briefly for like someone who doesn't know that term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So funnels, I feel like they get a bad rep because it sounds like such a jargony thing to say, right? Like it just sounds like a guy in a suit being like, oh, you need your marketing funnel.
Yes,
like,
which is so good to talk about. I have questions for you around that as well, but yes, keep going. I'm like, yes, let's talk about that.
Yeah. But it sounds like sleazy in some way, right? And it's like, it's not that at all. It literally, you guys, I just want you to picture an upside down triangle with 5 different little cutouts. And that's what your marketing funnel is. Like if it is all well defined, and I'll go through in a sec what all the steps are, but if it's all well defined, your marketing funnel should just encapsulate what your marketing strategy is. You should just be able to look at your funnel and say, okay, cool. That's my marketing strategy. And that's it. And it's like an easy 1-pager way that you can say it. So there are 5 steps of the funnel, which I'll just outline really quick. So first is we've got brand awareness. So everything brand awareness is how somebody is finding you. And this could be Instagram, this could be Pinterest, it could be press that you've done, partnerships you've done with other brands. Like I'll use us as an example right now. Like this is going to be really great brand awareness for me because there's probably a lot of people that haven't heard of me before on your podcast, vice versa, but you're definitely more well-known. So like when you're on my show, like there probably are going to be some people who need a website template who've never heard of even Show It before. Like I was saying that to you earlier, like I didn't even know what Show It was when I first heard you on a podcast. And that was my introduction to, your templates. So we'll go into all that, but that's your brand awareness, is all the ways that people are finding out about you. Next, we've got brand interest. So this is just the way that somebody is then opting in. So this is, me, when I heard you on a podcast and I was like, that sounds really interesting. You probably talked about one of your freebies or one of your lead magnets. And I was like, cool. I'm going to opt into that. I'm going to sign up for her email list. So that's second, right? It's just someone is just indicating interest that they want to hear more from you. Then the third step is going to be consideration or trial period. So this is, where we have people doing, like a free week to try out Peloton or a free week to try out so-and-so. or it's like your intro purchase. So it's probably going to be like your lowest cost purchase, maybe your lowest ticket offer. For me, for my clients who work in health and fitness, this would be, a drop-in class, or their acquisition offer would be something like, buy your first intro offers that you can buy, you take 2 classes for the price of 1. So something in that area. Then we've got brand adoption. So now they've become a client. So this is, maybe they're in your monthly membership. Maybe they have bought your high ticket offer. And then at the very bottom, that little point on the funnel or the little point on the triangle is you've got brand advocate. So now this person is an ambassador. Like I'll take me, for example, like I have told many people about your templates. Like I'm an affiliate for you. That's like, because I believe in your product, right? So now I'm a brand ambassador, tell everyone about it. And that's it. That's the goal, right? And then so every single person who your brand ambassadors bring in just starts right over again. Mm-hmm. So that's how somebody found out about you. And then they're just going to go again, step by step.
And that's different than I feel like a lot of people think about funnels, even the way you just described it all of like, because I know for me, I sometimes can think of it as just the like email marketing portion of it. Mm-hmm. And you're bringing in all the different sides of it. Mm-hmm. Let's real quick though, talk about what you said about how people can feel like funnels are sleazy. And I also feel like right now, especially in online marketing, there's a shift of like, hey, the whole concept that you've been taught a lot of like bro marketing type stuff of like, just put them in a funnel, sell them a $30 offer and then run a Facebook ad and like, you'll just make money on the beach. Like that concept, like it first of all doesn't work. It worked for a while for some people probably, but not a great long-term business strategy, not ethical, all of those things. But like, what are your thoughts on that and how this is different and just like thoughts on that whole element of funnels, I guess. I'm curious your ideas on it.
Yeah. I feel like that whole world of like thinking that everything is just, you can put it out there and then you're going to make 6 figures while you're sleeping. And like, I feel like if I see one more Instagram paid ad that tells me I'm going to make money while I'm sleeping, like I'm going to throw my phone out the window. Like that's great. And that's happened to me a few times, but it's been because of work I've put in on the front end. Like, and spoiler alert, it's not because of any dollars that I've spent for a sponsored ad, not one. Like I have never spent a single dollar in paid ads because I think organic marketing is really where it's at. And I mean, this whole like sleazy bro marketing, to me, the biggest downfall of this and the biggest issue that I see that I would love to just have rectified is it's turned everyone into the same person. Like I feel like this type of marketing strategy of, make money overnight and whatever, and like do these 5 things, like that doesn't work for everyone. That's not going to be the best fit for everyone's business. Like marketing is not one size fits all. It really depends on what your business model is and who you are. Like people are buying from you. They're not buying from, the Joe Schmo who sounds like every other Joe Schmo. Like they want to know exactly who you are. So I think a good funnel has a lot of who you are infused in that.
Interrupting this episode with a suggestion for the small business owners listening. Ever wonder what you should do for healthcare when you and your spouse are both self-employed so there's no work-provided health insurance to participate in? Well, when my husband Adam joined me in the entrepreneurial job space over 4 years ago, we joined Christian Healthcare Ministries instead of getting traditional health insurance. And it was the best decision for us, especially in these years of growing and raising a family while also running multiple businesses. CHM is a health cost-sharing ministry and is a faith-based alternative to health insurance. We did tons of research before choosing CHM, and if you know me and Adam, you know we are all about doing the math when making big or small financial decisions. And even though it's not insurance, CHM shares 100% of eligible medical bills, which is more than the typical 70 or 80% of medical bills paid for by insurance companies. All sharing is determined by the CHM guidelines, which you can check out before and after joining. And for the mamas and mamas to be listening, you truly cannot find a better healthcare option for maternity care. I had a vaginal delivery and a C-section and birth center care and hospital care between my 2 pregnancies and births, and it was all 100% shared for. And outside of birth, we've had our share of emergency room visits and procedures as a family, and those costs were all shared by members at Christian Healthcare Ministries, leaving us only paying our monthly contribution. information. CHM is less expensive month to month than insurance, and because there's no network, you can choose your care with whichever providers best fit your family. I seriously just cannot recommend Christian Healthcare Ministries enough. You've got to check them out. Go to elizabethmccravy.com/CHM for more information. Also putting that link in the show notes, elizabethmccravy.com/CHM. Now back to the episode. Yeah, I love that. And that's, yes, one size fits all. And I'm all about telling people that like the making money while you sleep thing is possible, but it's through, like you said, work that you already did previously, which I think a lot of times when it's being sold, it's more of like that there's not work involved is kind of part of the marketing of it. So yeah.
It's a diet pill, right? It's like, it's the analogy that I always love to use. It's like, I always tell my clients, I'm like, if you're going to tell a client that they can run a marathon in 2 weeks, like, would you ever say that that's actually possible? And they're like, no. And I'm like, what makes you think you can just throw $5,000 at a Facebook ad and you're going to have a 6-figure business overnight? Like, It is a diet pill. It's not a real thing. It's just, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. Yeah. So with the funnels, what would you say I want to dive deeper into each of those steps you laid out, but what would you say, like thinking about like the length of that, and maybe even more particularly the length of like the part of it that is like you're delivering content, delivering emails to them and all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Okay. So your top of funnel is going to be the most important thing, right? Like figuring out which top of funnel channels are working for you. So that is, your podcasts, webinars you're doing for other companies. Like I know a lot of people in our space. That's also how I definitely get a lot of great client acquisition is through webinars that I've done for other people. And just to go back to that, like make money overnight, like every single time I wake up to a sale, it's from someone who watched me on a webinar that I've done for another company, resonated with something that I said, and, they were watching it in their own time and then wanted to sign up for some sort of offer that I have. So, but I've done the work to sort of figure out, okay, cool. This person, Sally, came from this webinar that I did. So I know that acquisition channel is working for me. So it could go anywhere, right? Like back to this question of the timing, and it completely depends on what your business is. And like, I'll say this for me, like as I've gotten more mature as a business owner and as my business has grown, and I'm sure, you feel the same way, I've introduced new offers as time has gone on, right? Like to accommodate for different budgets, accommodate for different levels of business intelligence, accommodate for different levels of marketing savvy. So for some people, if you're new in your business, if you just have one quick offer, it might be around 2 to 4 weeks. Like maybe your nurture sequence and your email campaign is 2 to 4 weeks. For other people, again, like life is long. If we're in this life is long marketing strategy, it could be anywhere from 6 months. Maybe someone wants to binge every podcast episode you have and sign up for a show at trial and be like, can I figure this out? I don't even know if I can figure this out yet. Okay, wait, yes, now I'm ready, right? So it could be any length of time. And as you introduce different things too, like that will also just change where people are at in your funnel.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. So, okay, let's start talking through these steps.
Yes.
A little bit more. I know you already touched on them a bit, but the first one being brand awareness. So that's like how they find us. What tips and like strategies can you give for that part?
Yeah. So, oh man, I mean, it's the biggest tip that I can give you if you are already in business. If you haven't yet started your business, I'll have a tip for you too. But if you are already in business, you really should. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, like get mad at this one. You should know where every single one of your clients has come from. You really should. You should know where every single sale, how all those people found you, because you need to know which top of funnel tactics are working for you, right? Like if you are someone who, let's say you're putting all this time into Pinterest and YouTube, and you've heard all this stuff about how they're really good search engines, and you're like, okay, great. I'm going to really invest in this. This is what I'm going to focus on. But you're still getting sales from people who have all found you just through your podcast, is it a good use of time to still be putting all this energy into Pinterest and YouTube? Like, probably not. It's like, yes, I think there's an element of, okay, stick with your marketing strategy for a while to see how it works. But what's working for you is working for you. So figure out what that is, right? And I think that's important. I know you've said before, like, you're not really massive on TikTok because it just feels like a lot of energy for you. So it works, right? Like, people find you through, I'm sure your podcast is a massive acquisition channel and just, all those things. So number one, I think definitely audit where your current clients are coming from. If you are not in business yet, think about what feels best for you and how you feel most confident, right? So like, some people feel most confident delivering information on Instagram. Some people don't, and that's okay. And you don't need to force yourself to feel confident, or to put out content when it doesn't feel right for you. Because like, if it doesn't feel good for you, it's probably also not going to feel good for someone else absorbing the content. So you're not going to get the kind of engagement you want. So I think just finding what really feels good for you and how you feel best delivering information, to start to really look at that as your top of funnel.
Yeah, I agree with that so much. And it's all about like working smarter, not harder, that whole phrase too, of like, don't waste your time, and don't waste, if you say it's your team's time, if you do have a team that is helping with some of this on stuff that isn't working. And I will say in my business, I totally agree on like, you find out where they're coming from. If you guys are like, well, wait, how do I know where they're coming from? Ask on the purchase form. If you sell digital products, courses, membership, something like templates, you can likely on your cart software have that as like a question someone has to ask in order to buy. And for me, the way I do it is not the way a large company should do it, because it's not scalable. But I let people write it in. So someone can literally say, I heard you on James Wedmore's podcast, like you've told me now. Someone could write that in versus just saying podcast, like from a drop-down menu, which means that like, I can't just like put it on a spreadsheet really easily automated what the answers are. We have to like sort it, but I like letting people write it in so I can see someone's specific name, see what show, see if it's, how they want to describe the Google search they found me through and that sort of stuff. And same for like a contact form, letting people write it in.
Yeah. I mean, how amazing is that you can just keep going back and reference that. And you can see, even if, let's say you get to a point in your business where you're selling 10,000 templates, every 5 seconds, like you still will be able to scroll through this document just quickly. And like, you'll start to see these trends, right? And I'm a big fan of just measuring the data that you have so that you can make informed decisions from that.
Yes. Yeah. So guys listening, if you are like, I do podcasting, I do YouTube, I do Pinterest, I do trying to rank on Google, I blog, like, and you're not sure what's actually working, like do what Alexa's saying and go ahead and like try to take an inventory. Even just like on your contact form is a great spot too, of like seeing like where those leads are coming from, even if they have not booked your service or bought from you. Yeah, I love that. And that's something too, that it's like a lot of times we know that when we don't look at it. So
yeah. Well, and also if there's people out there right now listening who are like, okay, cool, I'll do that going forward, but I haven't done that in the past. This is where you can also utilize your Instagram polls, right? Like just drop a question box open and just say like, hey, I'm doing some research. How'd you find out about me? Yeah, I've done that before. Great. And I've always been like, oh, wow, like that person, like you get surprised by that too. So don't be afraid to utilize your Instagram polls as just a further way to get to know your audience.
I might do that, like just for fun, even on Instagram, be like, hey, just because that's even like a different audience right there to kind of see like where those people came from. Yeah.
That's great. And then I would say, I found you on this podcast. And
I love it. Okay. So that's brand awareness, top of funnel. They find us through one of our different marketing efforts. Let's talk more about the next step of brand interest.
Yeah. So next step for most of us is going to be a lead magnet here. So this is, and I know because I'm in your membership that someone had posted recently about like, what should my lead magnet be? And, I chimed in because it's such a great community of like just being able to answer questions. And I said, your lead magnet should really be 1% of what it's like to work with you. So it should, for me, for example, like early client retention is a big thing that I focus on with my clients. It was a big thing I learned at Soul Cycle was, getting your clients to a certain amount of interactions in their early days with your business. So my lead magnet is a retention workbook. That's like my general most used one. And that's what I feel most comfortable with people using because that's my process. That's what I teach. And it's a very great snippet of what they'll get once they work with me. So your next step, you're just going to want it to be some sort of lead magnet. And in your nurture sequence, like in your email drip campaign, this is going to be the first email that they get. So if you're choosing a lead magnet, I know a lot of people have a workbook, right? So if your workbook or your PDF or your one pager or anything like that, if that's your lead magnet, I'm going to want you to also have some sort of different type of learning style in there. So I would say like in your third email or so, maybe it's you going through the workbook in a video, right? Like, because not everybody is a workbook person. Just like not everybody is a podcast person. Not everybody is a video person. So I would consider and I would challenge yourself to have a follow-up learning method in this nurture sequence for you.
I love that. And yes, lead magnets. I'm all about that. And it's funny because you're saying some stuff that is like top level into what for Breakthrough Brand All Access, the training for September is all about.
Oh yeah.
Email marketing, kind of like for beginners, like getting started. And I talk a lot about lead magnets and the emails you send after people get it and all that. So I feel like we're on the same page with all that. And I love what you said too about how it's 1% of what it's like to work with you. Cause I think sometimes people are like, I'm given everything I have in this lead magnet, and then you overwhelm people and they don't do anything with it. Yes. Or the opposite, it's like so lame that we're like, why did I even opt in for this? Because someone opting in for your thing and giving you their email is like a value exchange. Like, even though it's free, they gave you something, the ability to email them again. They are a lead now. It's like, you got to give something of value, but also not like something that's so crazy that they'll be overwhelmed and never use it.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Giving away too much is always a sign kind of just like not that much confidence yet in your business. And it's, it's just like, you don't want to give away everything for free. So I would say a small snippet of what it's like to work with you.
Hey friends, interrupting this real quick because I got something to tell you. If you're loving this conversation about marketing and funnels with Alexa, then you're going to love this month's training inside of my membership, Breakthrough Brand All Access. Now, you might be like, Elizabeth, what is Breakthrough Brand All Access? Well, it's my monthly coaching membership where you get a masterclass from me each month, deep diving into a topic to help you grow your business. Plus, there's an amazing community of people like Alexa in it and coaching calls with me as well. I actually recorded our September masterclass called Email Marketing Getting Started to Book Clients and Customers before this interview. And as I was chatting with Alexa, I saw how these two content pieces, this interview with her and this masterclass inside the membership, really complement each other so well. And so I'm like, I wanted to come in and point that out to you. So if this interests you and you're like, I want to learn from Elizabeth on this as well, I want to dive even deeper into email marketing and funnels, I want to encourage you to check out Breakthrough Brand All Access at elizabethmccravey.com/BBAA. I'll put that link in the show notes. And best of all, this masterclass I'm talking about is delivered in audio form through a private member-only podcast feed. So if you're like, Elizabeth, that sounds great, but like, I don't have time to sit down and watch a 1-hour masterclass on email marketing, you don't have to sit down and watch it. You can listen on the go the exact same way you're listening to my free content right now. So check it out, elizabethmccravey.com/BBAA, link in the show notes, and let's get back to the conversation with Alexa. Okay, that's great. And now let's talk about consideration. So that's brand interest, our opt-in, our lead magnet. Awesome. Also, I should say, I'll link to in the show notes. I have a guide though on how to create a lead magnet. It's kind of funny. It's like a lead magnet on lead magnets,
lead magnet.
Really meta situation there. I loved it when I was like lead magnet. So anyway, I'll link to that in the show notes. So if anyone wants to like dive deeper into like, okay, what are the different options there and all that. Okay, let's talk about consideration. I really loved what you shared about this. So this is like the introductory purchase, a free week, a trial, those sorts of things. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Or even a free consultation, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
this is just the next step. Like how do you want to get to know this person? How do you want them to get to know your service a little bit better? So it could be, really anything. It's just how somebody is getting to know you. It could be, free trial for your membership. It could be going deeper. It could be more of your favorite resources, more podcast episodes on this same thing. It's just another way that you're furthering this relationship.
Yes. I love what you said of like the consultation costs, like guys listening or service providers, that could be like they've opted in, they got your freebie, and now they booked a discovery call with you, which is a term I always use for that. So like they're taking the next step of interest. Yeah, that's awesome. And that's helpful too. Cause I know you said too, it's like, it could be that they bought a low ticket offer from you, but some people don't have that. I don't really, my membership is now, but like,
Right.
it's not open all the time. So in reality, there's not an opportunity all the time necessarily to buy something that like feeds naturally into everything else.
Yeah.
So it could be them exploring more. And with that, how are we getting people to take that next step? Can you kind of
Through
explain
your
that a little
email.
bit? Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely through your email. So, I'll just give like a really brief overview of what your nurture sequence should look like here, because I think I'm referencing a lot. So your first one, we said this already. This is going to be your lead magnet, right? So snippet of what it's like to work with you. That's it. Number 2 is going to be an introduction of you. Why did you start your business? Why were you passionate about it? Right? Like this is how you're going to attract the people that are going to be right for you. Then you're going to have an over deliver email. So it's going to be your extra resources, all this sort of stuff. And if you have consultations, if you have all these things, like this is where it's a great place to put in a footer, right? Because I think I've heard a lot of marketing people sort of say like, you shouldn't introduce your services until the last few emails. And I don't think that's true. Like if someone signs up for your email, or especially like if you have a quiz as a lead magnet, they might be pretty ready to buy like immediately. Yeah. Like your quiz, I have used your quiz actually as examples for my clients all the time on like a perfect quiz, because it's perfect, right? It's like all of a sudden I'm given this example of what my perfect template's going to be. Cool. I'm ready to buy it. I don't need 4 more emails of like who you are and your dog and all. Like, it's great. I'm interested in that, but like, I'm ready to buy. So just make it easy for me to pay you. And then that's that. So I would always put into your footer, like these services and these ways that people can work with you. But then the third email, I'll just reiterate, would be an over deliver. So extra resources, like extra podcasts, extra things to reiterate this lead magnet and the value that you're bringing. Then you're going to have some testimonials and some case studies in there. But in all of those emails, I would sprinkle in what this consideration trial purchase would be. So, anything. Here's 20% off of a template. Here's a link for a discovery call. Here's a free week to my membership, like anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh my gosh. I love all that. I feel like that's everything you just said, stuff someone's going to need to like rewind and re-listen to, because that was super helpful. And I just want to like also echo you, and advice often is that you should wait until like email 5, email 6. Some people are saying even like if you're sending a ton of emails, like way farther than that to like mention the thing. Yeah. And I actually think that's part of what is sometimes outdated now about funnels. The idea of like, you're keeping something like behind your back. What is it? We don't know. You're offering free value, but we don't know why yet. And you're about to pull something out and ask people to buy. And that can feel a little bit like, it works sometimes and can still be good. I will say, I know every business is so different, but I think sometimes like people are ready to buy sooner or ready to know that you are like, you have something you're selling. Like, let's just be like upfront about it.
Right. It doesn't feel transparent, right? Like you'd never go to Saks Fifth Avenue. Even like, let's take something really high ticket. You'd never go to Saks and look at a YSL bag and wait, a month for them to email you and say, okay, it's $1,300. Like what? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. Like, I like this product. It seems high quality. I would like to know how much it is, and then maybe I'm going to buy it on the spot. But, it feels like you're pulling one over on someone. And I'm like, why? Like you're a store, you're a business. Like just tell people what it costs.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for it. And I like your idea though of putting the information in the footer. If someone is like, I want to wait to sell until email 3, it's like, that's great. But like having that opportunity, especially if it's not on your website, because a lot of people, to again talk about how funnels sometimes work, you might have a course that someone has to get on your email list through this lead magnet in order to even buy, because it's not just directly for selling your website. So that's pretty common. And that's where it's like, yeah, like someone might be ready to buy sooner, and it can be truly a missed opportunity if we wait a week or 5 days or whatever it is. Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, the who you are, over delivering, testimonials, all that after the lead magnet is really a great starting point for people. If you are like, hey, what do I say? That's a really great overview. And I do that and talk a little bit about how every business is so different. I have 2 main funnels, which I talk about this in the training for September in the membership, but like one for my templates, one for Booked Out Designer. And I'm pretty, like you're saying with the quiz, I sell pretty quickly in both of them, actually, with that in mind of like, I'm not going to keep it behind my back, but also continuing to deliver free value in them, in addition to like saying, hey, you can buy this now if you'd like. So
definitely. And it's, it's also, it's knowing who your audience is, right? So like, if you know that you are going to be launching a product soon, maybe it's not fully launched yet, there's a fine line between like telling your current audience and being like, guys, I'm really excited about this. I'm working on it. You can join a wait list. Like, I'll let you know as soon as I have information, because that's still being transparent. Like you might not know yet how much it's going to be and all of that. So there's a time and a place for all of it. But yeah, I think just being transparent and authentic is the most important.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. So they've done the consideration and now brand adoption. Let's talk about step 4.
Yeah. So, I mean, this one's really exciting. Like this is when they're becoming your client. So, or they're like in now. So now they're signing up for the membership or they're buying the template. So this is super, super exciting. The biggest thing that I want to just reiterate here is make this a credible and good experience for your client. So if you have a really high ticket offer or something like that, like whatever your offer is, actually, it doesn't matter if it's high ticket or low ticket, have all your systems set up that people, as soon as their credit card goes through, like they should get a confirmation email, so set up these triggers. Don't put yourself in a bad position where you're like getting an email, a Stripe notification. And then you're like, oh my gosh, I have to go on my computer and email this person and put them into this segment. Like make it easy for yourself. Use Zapier, use these automation tools to have everything tied together with like a pretty little bow. So yeah, that's my biggest advice on that one.
Yes. And that's like, I've literally sometimes forget to even say that, because it's so like when you get used to doing something for a while, it's like, yes, you definitely need to like not have them swipe their card, or rather digitally put it in that case, and then not see anything after. But yes,
I always feel then you're like, who'd I buy from? Like, did I? And then you want to go check your credit card, and not a good experience.
Yeah. And I forget the term. It's not buyer's remorse. There's another term that's similar. I'm literally forgetting what it is, but it's where it's like the immediate feeling based on this kind of stuff happening. I'll put the term in the show notes if I think of it later, but
I don't know.
But yeah, like where it is like, when someone buys and then they are immediately unfulfilled because you are not sending the correct stuff. And then they're like, wait, did I just buy a scam? Is this real? Oh my gosh, I just lost $1,000 or whatever it is. So important.
And then just some marketing tips on this one is, I know you've talked a lot about which email marketing platform to use. Personally, I love Flowdesk. I think the emails are so pretty. Like, I just think they're so aesthetically pleasing. I love them. So if you have something like, I don't know, Acuity or whatever the confirmation is going to be from someone, even if it's, a Shopify confirmation or whatever, you can use Zapier to connect these things so that they can get a prettier email, right? Like I have, everything I do is run through Stripe. So instead of people getting the Stripe like confirmation email, I have it set up that they get a prettier Flowdesk email of, okay, here's all the things you need to know. you can reference this if this is what you want to do. You can reference the podcast here. Like I just make it prettier and an easier sort of client journey for them once they get this confirmation email.
I love that. Yeah. And that's, great advice on making it the onboarding, whether it's as a client or as a customer, feel really like you're well taken care of in that way. And I love Flowdesk as well. I'll put a coupon code in the notes for anyone who wants to check it out. And it is hard picking email marketing software. And on that, it really is like at some point, my advice was at some point you just have to pick one and you can always change too. Cause people get so like, I don't know which one to pick. I've used 3 different ones. So it's like, you can move between them. If that ends up being what you need to do. And also talking real quick about onboarding and like that initial, what happens after you purchase. If you are working one-on-one with clients, something like Dipsado is really helpful because then that like once they've paid and that would be via invoice, different than like a cart software. You can set up automations within the software for them to get immediately their onboarding questionnaire, immediately the link to schedule a call with you. And then they're going to feel like, okay, I just spent a lot of money for this service and now everything's right here. And that's also the time when someone's most ready to take the next step. So like it not being like, hey, wait 5 hours and then you're going to get all your onboarding stuff. It's like, they're ready to go right now. Like they just swipe their card. They're ready to like do the next thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk final step. Brand, then becoming a brand advocate, which is such a great term for it too.
Yes, I know. I mean, this is just such an exciting moment. I feel like for every business owner is like, when you hear the words like, oh, so-and-so referred me, you're like, oh my God, like they had a great experience. Like that just makes you so excited. So I think having a system set up for your brand ambassadors, essentially, and that just means, okay, is it an affiliate program, which is a great option? Is it that, I have a monthly marketing membership and I have it set up so that every person who refers someone else, and this isn't fully scalable, but for me it is right now, that every person who refers someone else, they get a 30-minute, quick marketing consultation with me. Oh, wow. So it's like, it's just time, right? Where they're like, because they don't always get one-on-one time inside the membership. And if they have issues with marketing that they're trying to workshop or brainstorm, like I'll just hop on the phone and I'll be like, hey, okay, awesome. Thanks so much for referring this person. Like, what do you need to work on today? So it could be anything like that, but just have some sort of system for, your ambassadors recruiting other people into your funnel, and really measure. I would say this is just, again, like know the data, right? So in that Excel document that we're talking about, like, yes, people have found you on podcasts and all these things, but I'm sure there's also a lot of referrals in there too. So that's just something that, you want to keep a good thumb on.
Yeah. And like you're saying too, and thanking those referrals, like that's amazing that you're offering that in your membership. So high value and encourages people to keep referring you and to like feel excited about like what they get back from that. I love that.
It's like, it's so fun for me because I'm like, I know these people so well already. I love working with them that it's like, it's just an extra time to hang out.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I love this whole funnel walkthrough. For anyone who is like, okay, I'm ready to like start on this. I know we just talked through all the steps, but what would be like a true first step in the overwhelm? Let's talk even to new business owners specifically, or someone who's had their business a little while, but is like, I don't do any of this yet.
Yeah. So I have a funnel training that I told you earlier is designed on one of your templates. And we can just drop it in the show notes, but it's like, as we are chatting, I'm looking at my funnel in like behind us as I'm going step by step. So it's just my funnel and then also a blank one. So I really encourage people, and I know like you're right, like I write notes on paper. I highly encourage you to just print it out and just write down, like really think to yourself, okay, what are all the ways someone may have heard about me, right? All the ways, and just write them down in your top of funnel. Like write down how your funnel currently is, and then write down your dream one, right? So I would say like print 2, like how it is, and then how I would want it to be, and just get started there. Like you just have to start. And once you have things on paper, it's easier, I think, to see your gaps and your missed opportunities and where you can start to fill things in.
Yeah, I love that, writing it down. And it's true too, even though doing like a funnel feels like that's like a big thing, you technically always have a funnel. Like if you've had a client yet or are trying to acquire clients, there is a process that is happening. It might just be that it's not very built out or has much thought into it, which just adding that like build out and like thinking it through and strategy is going to help so much.
Yeah. And I think my favorite question is, if I could give you 10,000 qualified leads tomorrow, right? Like if I told you, I love Oprah, who doesn't, but if I told you Oprah was going to post about you tomorrow, are you ready? Like, is your system ready for all that stuff? And like, generally you will have a thought in your head where you're like, oh boy, I have no email trigger set up, or I have, I haven't had my Stripe. People are still Venmoing me, or like whatever it is, you would have that thought and you'd be like, okay, that's the thing I need to get set up quick. That's generally what you've been avoiding, but you need to spend some time on it.
That's such a good question too. Yeah. and that's also, I've heard the question similarly of like, if you all of a sudden went viral on social media, like, is your business prepared for that? And what that would look like. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Okay. Let's kind of transition, but kind of on the same note, since you mentioned it, you have an M Shop template. You have two, actually.
I have two.
Yeah. And you're a member of Breakthrough Brand All Access. I feel like we've been connected for so long.
I know. I love it.
I feel like I've known your business name in my head for like ever, but anyway, let's talk about like, I guess I just want you to, maybe let's talk about M Shop first, but like share your experience for someone who is like, hey, I'm also a business owner. I've also thought about these templates. I'm listening to this podcast too. Yeah. What would you like advice or just thoughts or anything for them?
I have to say, and this is going to sound so gushy, but like changing over from my past website template user thing into Show It has been the biggest shift for me as a business owner, because I felt in the past, and I know a lot of entrepreneurs feel like you need creative freedom to thrive, right? Like it's why we all got into this. It's like, we want to sort of make changes when we feel inspired to. Like all of us have some sort of, devotion to like our inspiration, and we want to be able to follow that. And I never felt like I could with my past website builder. And on Show It, I feel like, first of all, I feel like through the course that comes with your templates, I learned so much about Show It, like so much. Every time I had a question, I was like, well, what is she saying in Kajabi? And then I would head over and, read exactly what you needed to say. And I was like, perfect. So like, but every time I feel inspired to do something, I just do it and Show It. Like I just create a new page, and it doesn't have to be public yet, but I can start to really put that idea in motion. And that I think is massive, where like, it just gives me so much more freedom to move ahead with a product. Like, for example, I'm hosting an event in New York City in October, and I had this idea for it, and I started creating a page on my template like months ago. And I was like, oh, cool. This is what the event page would look like. And then the event started to follow. So it's having this ability to just customize and just keep going with like your creative ideas, I think has been the biggest game changer for me.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. And I love that. And being in control, like, especially someone like you that is like, you're a marketer, you're creative, like you want to be able to update your site, like you're saying, without a lot of workarounds. Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
It's the workarounds that I think is massive. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk to you briefly about Breakthrough Brand All Access. Cause so this actually is going to air pretty close to when, we're recording it. So shout out, like I said, to like, I haven't done an interview forever, and I'm like, here we are. Like, so we're going to air this like ASAP. But Breakthrough Brand All Access hasn't been open that long, but you were one of the founding members of it. Could you share a little bit about like what the experience has been like so far for people who are considering joining?
Yeah. I mean, do it if you're considering it. Like, it is just us. I think most people listening are probably pretty solitary in their businesses, or like, as a business owner, you can feel like you're sort of heads down. There aren't that many people like keeping you in check. It is so important to surround yourself with other business owners. Even if you feel like you don't have a question or you don't have something you're necessarily working on, just hearing and like getting in the room with other business owners and hearing what they're working on inspires you so much to make changes and make improvements. Even also, like, I've learned so much from you of the way that you manage the membership. So like, I'll use software as an example. Like, I now use Advent. I was not using that before. This sounds so silly. Like, I was manually adding every single member to a Google invitation. Like, utilizing Advent has saved me so much time. So it's like you're getting inspired by the other business owners, also getting inspired by you and how you run your business. And I think that was always the biggest takeaway for me from this podcast. You know, it has always just been like how you run your business and what's worked for you. And I just love the way you share that, like, so freely and openly and just in pure service to other business owners. And the Breakthrough Brand All Access is just taking that a step further. So the private podcast, I'm obsessed with. Like, I could listen to podcasts literally all day. And yeah, it's all amazing. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. I know I always feel funny asking those kind of questions, but I'm like blushing over here, but love hearing you share all that. And yeah, if anyone is curious about templates or Breakthrough All Access, like, or working with you, all the things, they need to reach out to you. And on the new I've recently redesigned the shop side of my website. And your face is on it with your testimonial.
Yeah, really?
I know you said, like, your testimonial was so fun. You said, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. I don't want to misquote
What did
you.
I say?
Something about it being like the most fun thing you had done on a weekend, like setting up your website.
Yeah, it was my podcast, which is, it's the Jenna template, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That was the most fun weekend. And so I was in Florida for a few weeks. I had a friend with me and I woke up so early to work on this template. And around like 10 o'clock, she came in and she was like, do you want to go to breakfast? And I was like, no, I'm having so much fun working on my website. Like, I just want to stay here. So yes, I love it.
Yes. And that's such a good thing, right? Because website, like, not to say, like, there's definitely, I'm sure you had some hiccups. Everyone does with like creating a website, but it can be fun.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
You just have to figure out like the little things that you think are going to take you forever. I guarantee come down to like a button you weren't pressing or you didn't see. And that's where your templates are amazing because they come with the course. Like, that's where I think, you know, it's the one, like, you're the designer I will always recommend out to people, because when you're getting started with a new software, you need someone to hold your hand through it a little bit sometimes, even if you're the most techie person in the world. Like, I definitely felt humbled a little bit when I switched to Show It, but having a resource there is really important.
Yeah, I love that. And I'll link to a video that shows the Show It Blueprint course if anyone wants to see that. That's what we're talking about, the course that comes with it. I'm literally making notes to like link to certain things, but yeah, that's, I'll link to that. But yeah, thank you for sharing all that, Alexa. Okay. Let's like close out with some rapid fire questions.
Ooh, let's do it.
Yeah. So, okay. First question for you. What's an unpopular opinion you have about marketing?
That you need to spend money to make money. I am a huge fan of organic marketing. You know, we said it in the very beginning, like, relationships are key. It does not cost you $1 to be nice to someone, to send a follow-up DM, to send that email. Like, it's time, but you don't need to spend thousands of dollars in paid ads. You can just be hospitable and your company can succeed.
Yeah, I love that. And that's such an encouragement too, in a time where ad costs are really, it's hard to get good ad costs, how to get them down, and hard to get all the data we want with the iOS change. So like, yes. I'm there with you on that. I love it. Okay. Craziest marketing moment, or like any story, anything funny, anything embarrassing you did, maybe working with a big brand or any of your clients, maybe funny, scary, anything that's just like a fun story you could share with us.
So I think the craziest thing was just working at SoulCycle. Like, I worked in headquarters, so I wasn't in the studios all the time, but every time I was, they had this rule that if the door opened, like if the door for the spinning room opened, everyone who worked for SoulCycle had to run as fast as they possibly could to the door because there had been so many instances of people like throwing up or like if they were hungover from the night before. Like there just were so many crazy stories of people coming out of the room and like totally collapsing because they couldn't do it. So that was the craziest thing, I think, was like all of a sudden being trained. So now if I go to a fitness studio and the door opens, I'm like, ugh! Like I want to like go run for the door, but I don't obviously. But yeah.
Wait, so you're saying like after they finish the class,
if class was still going on, like the front
and someone comes, I got you.
Yeah.
And someone opens the door leaving the class. Oh yeah. I can see how that is a gotta run moment. Yeah. Those cycling classes are hard.
I know. It was just like a very high stress thing I learned and I can't unlearn it, I feel like.
Yeah, that definitely is. And I had this as not a rapid fire question, but I do, I want to ask you, because I think it's so interesting, but lately, and people might not know what I'm talking about and you can Google it or go listen. You did a podcast episode on it recently, but there's been really interesting. I literally, first of all, you shared all this on Instagram. I went and literally went on like a rabbit hole on Google after watching your reel about it. But media, interesting stuff going on with SoulCycle and Peloton, like battling out with each other. Peloton's had a lot of bad media lately. Both of them honestly have now. But we're just curious what your take on it is. And like, if you can like briefly share that again, you have a whole podcast episode. It's a good like 20-minute take-ish on it, but a little bit share with us.
Yeah. I mean, so for everyone who's listening, basically this was a few weeks ago. SoulCycle was like, give us your Peloton bike and we'll give you 46 classes. Like that was it. Right. So it made no sense. It didn't align at all with like, if someone likes to work out at home, they like to work out at home. You don't need to force them to come into your studio. And it just was such a bizarre thing. And it felt so desperate. And this goes back to, what we said in the early in the episode of Lululemon didn't do anything for a quick buck, right? They didn't do sales on black leggings and they still haven't literally ever. Like you will not find a pair of black Wonder Unders or black Aligns or whatever on sale because they don't do anything for a quick buck. They stand by the integrity of their product and that's that. For SoulCycle to do this like quick marketing ploy and then PS, by the way, 2 weeks later announced they were closing 25% of their studios. It was like a duh kind of moment. The analogy that I'll use here is think about, like, just imagine for a second, if you ever came on Instagram or whatever, and you were like, hey guys, if you show me that you're going to trash your other website or you want to trash this other template designer, I'm going to give you $100 off, right? Like, that would feel so misaligned to your brand and it would just feel so cringy. So, I mean, it was desperate. I think they're struggling hard, but yeah, weird, like just strange marketing. You don't need to put other people down to have a good business ever. And if you feel like you do, like if you feel like you need to put others down for your business to thrive, it doesn't say much about how you feel about your product.
Yeah. And that's like such great advice for us to end on too, of like, you said not doing anything for a quick buck. That's like, keeping your business in integrity if you're in it for the long term, like not doing stuff that compromises your own integrity, that compromises your reputation as a business owner, and not putting other people down. Another example of it, if anyone else wants another rabbit hole, for those of you who have breastfed a baby, you probably have seen this happen when it happened. It was actually when I was like a few months postpartum, but Medela, I think that's how you say, or was it Medela? Oh my gosh, now I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I think it was. They came out with a product that was a competitor to Haka, which is a manual breast pump. And they literally use the Haka name in their email saying, move aside Haka, there's a better thing now. And people got so mad because like I was someone who I'm using Medela and Haka. I'm like, can I use them both? And then they were literally calling out their business and they ended up apologizing and all kinds of stuff. But it's another example of a similar thing of like, you don't have to do that. You can also just create a product and like be beside each other for people who all need this thing. Yeah.
Right. Also, SoulCycle has an at-home bike. And that was the weirdest part was that we were like, did you forget that you also have clientele who like to work out at home sometimes? Cause like you're putting them, it was just Yes, very strange all around.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed hearing your take on it and the rabbit hole that it led me down. It's like literally I was watching like Peloton ads from like last Christmas. I was just like, man, this is so interesting. Just laying back and reading about it. So fun rabbit hole if anyone wants to go down it. Okay, let's thank you for this conversation, first of all. I've enjoyed connecting with you so much. Let's tell everyone, we're going to link to your freebie, but let's also tell everyone where they can connect with you, listen to your podcast, work with you, because I know there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are in the wellness space. So let's talk about all the ways.
Yeah. So literally all my websites are Elizabeth templates. So my website is foreverfriday.co. I think that's the Leanne template. And then the Friday Society podcast.com is the Jenna template. But that's the podcast. It's the Friday Society podcast. I talk to business owners, mostly in the health and wellness space, about what it was like to start a business. So if you're interested in founder stories, it's a big podcast for founder stories. So that's it. On Instagram, same thing, foreverfriday.co. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And send Alexa a message and me too on Instagram, and let us know like if you're going to do this like funnel stuff and takeaways, and if you're going to stalk the Soul Cycle Peloton battle and all that good stuff.
Send us pictures if you fill out the funnel, because I love that. I love looking at pictures of people's like work.
Oh my gosh, yes, please do. I'm excited to check out that lead magnet as well. Okay, awesome. Well, seriously, thank you for being on, and everyone listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you love the Breakthrough Brand podcast, then you need to join me for the next level inside of my membership, Breakthrough Brand All Access. Inside of All Access, you get coaching calls with me where you can ask me anything and get help with your specific business. If you've ever felt like you want me to be your business coach, you want my take on things, this is your way to do so. You also can get access to our amazing community. Seriously, I can tell you, they are the greatest, where you can collaborate, get feedback, and make friends as you grow your business together. And on top of all that, you get additional trainings from me that help you build a sustainable, scalable business. You'll be able to take the things you learn from this podcast and apply them to your business alongside myself and a collaborative group of other business owners. You can get all the details and all the info about joining at elizabethmccravy.com/BBAA. The doors aren't always open, so they aren't right now. Just get on the wait list to be notified as soon as they open up again. So thank you for being here, friend. Thanks for listening all the way to the end. And I hope to see you soon inside of Breakthrough Brand All Access. Again, the link is elizabethmccravy.com/BBAA.